Take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? Really like that. You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape.
What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a magical, wonderful Thursday evening here on the network. We have a saying around here, all right, we do shows Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you know what that means. Thursday, it is our last show. It is our best show for the week. We have a tremendous one lined up for you today. I got a litany of things we're going to rattle off at the top of tonight's show, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you right now, for those of you who showed up early and on time, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and leave a comment both in the live chat and in the actual video. All right, we all got that out of the way. Let's get to rat-a-tat-tatting with tonight's show, okay? I do have final thoughts. I do it every single Thursday when you guys got a big matchup coming. I spend all week grinding the tape. We do what to expect episodes. We did an offense and a defensive breakdown over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. This week on the show on YouTube, we've brought you the verbals of those, right? We've given you the scouting reports with me just talking them to you. Today, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on what's actually going to happen, what I think is going to happen in this football game, starting with this one right here. I think Georgia has a significant speed advantage in this football game, particularly on the offensive side of the football. Okay, I've watched this Tennessee football team over two games the last several days. I watched the Alabama game and the Missouri game. Both football teams gave this Tennessee football team a lot of trouble with speed, whether it be Isaiah Bond, whether it be Cody Schrader on stretch runs. A lot of bad angles, not necessarily poor tackling, but a lot of exposure of top-end speed on this football team. I've watched them play a lot of teams, and man, they like to muck it up, right? We talked about last night how they are a disguising football team, and they like to do a bunch of, we're either in cover three, we're either in man coverage. You're not going to really find out until post-snap. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much this football team can play man coverage against Georgia as well as other teams who have done it and mucked it up. Okay, I know South Carolina had a bunch of success. To be honest with you, when I went back and watched that tape, I couldn't really quantify how they did it. They did a tremendous job covering in that football game, way better than they did probably the rest of the football year. It's why they were able to hold Georgia to 24 points in that football game. I think Missouri did a really good job of playing man coverage, sending pressure, and mucking the game up a couple weeks ago. I think they have a little bit better line of scrimmage play, though, and linebacker play, and particularly corner play than Tennessee does in this football game. All right, they sat in cover three against Alabama, and I think they did it for a multitude of reasons. One, they were scared of the speed, but two, I think they were scared of Jalen Milroe running and taking off, and you can't really play a lot of man coverage against quarterbacks who are rushing threats because you got to have eyes on him, which is why, again, I think they sat in a lot of that cover three against Alabama. If they choose to do that Saturday, if they choose to sit in cover three in that soft shell zone coverage, Georgia will destroy them. We have talked about this over and over again. Georgia gashes zone teams, particularly cover three football teams, and if they want to live in that, they're going to get cooked. If I were Tennessee, I would try. I would try to play cover one man. I would try to be aggressive. I would try to play confident, and I would try to, muck things up and really disrupt the timing and try to be aggressive with this unit until I couldn't. Okay, until I absolutely couldn't, until they proved to me that they were going to be explosive and whip my ass if I remained in man coverage, I would try to do it and live in that and maybe throw some change-ups every once in a while. In my opinion, when playing Georgia this year, the recipe to creating a turnover, all right, is creating some type of pressure with obviously good coverage behind it, all right? Think about the times in which Carson Beck has thrown errant interceptions this year. I'm not talking about I dared to throw that ball into tight coverage, it was tipped and it was intercepted, a la last week against Ole Miss. Or I attempted to throw that ball on that deep runner over to, who's number 6? Dominic Lovett, right? Tried to hit it against Kentucky. Maybe a little bit of a confidence throw. That ball got an interception. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the balls where Carson's like, oh, crap, I'm about to get pressure, throw it immediately and erratically, all right, like we did against Vanderbilt, a ball that got tipped, an interception, ball that was probably thrown when it probably shouldn't have been due to pressure, and I think he threw another one of those footballs against Auburn, and he had another one against –
He had a pick against Ball State, but that was one of those deep balls that got tipped.
This was recent.
He's only had 4 on the year, I think.
No, he had one against Auburn. He had one against
Yeah.
Auburn where it didn't get caught, but he had one that he probably shouldn't have thrown. That a kid dove on the Georgia sideline and ended up dropping. That's the other one I have on my notes. Sometimes I'll be riffing and I'm just like, dude, it's on the notes. Look down, it's right there. Those were the 2 balls I'm talking about. Vandy, I know it got tipped, but it got tipped due to pressure, right? And they were playing a little bit of disguised zone coverage out on the back end of that. The one against Auburn, a very similar set, didn't actually end up in an interception, but you get what I'm saying. The only time this guy has been lacked caution with the football is due to pressure, and I think that's the only way you're going to get them to actually turn the football over outside of just a little bit too confident in throwing the football. And those types of football throws, Carson's only really made this year up multiple scores. So if that's what you're banking on, you're probably already out of the football game at that point. I don't think there's one way this defense is bad. Okay, this Tennessee defense, to me, it's why they've played relatively well this year. I would say good this year, good to great at times this year, is because they are so old, they are so veteran, but there's not one thing that they do bad. There's not one thing that they're bad. They don't run fit bad, every down. They're not bad at getting pressure. They're not bad at coverage. They're just good at coverage. They're great at getting pressure, right? They're above average in a lot of categories, except for the speed department. I do think there is, like I said at the top of the show, some speed issues, but they are a really, really well-rounded bunch without a superstar. Okay, I think this is a couple of years ago, Georgia was known as the no-name defense. To me, this is a very similar look at that without the top-end NFL talent that Georgia's defense obviously had on that unit. A lot of the matchup in this one in pregame talks will be about James Pierce, number 27, the edge rusher from Tennessee. And I'll be honest, they will frame it as Georgia's got to find a way to stop this guy. I think it's the other way around. I've seen the last couple of weeks, particularly against Alabama, when Tennessee saw James Pierce up against an NFL tackle like a J.C. Latham, they hunted other matchups on rushing or pass rushing downs. They didn't necessarily want him to sit out there and eat against a J.C. Latham. I don't necessarily think they want that matchup against Amarius Mims either. I favor Amarius Mims over a James Pierce at this point, even though Amarius has just come back from a high ankle sprain. So I would find ways, if I were Tennessee, to get mismatches against other people, not necessarily living and trying to die getting home against number 65. Again, it's something that they've done. They have shown a tendency to move him around. I would find, if I am Georgia, I would find ways to hunt number 44, particularly in the matchup department, right? If we can find a way to put Oscar Delp or Brock Bowers, ideally, on 44, you're going to outrun him. You're going to run by him, and it's going to be an explosive play. He's a really, really plus defender in the box. He stops the run really well. He is leading their team in tackles, don't get me wrong. But when it's outside the box, when he's stretched and made to pursue, it does get a little bit questionable, if you will. I think Georgia will abuse them on the defensive side of the football, guard to guard. All right, Cooper Mays, the center, left guard number 78, and the right guard, I don't think are high-end, top-end SEC football players like maybe the rest of their roster might appear to be. I think if there is a weakness on this offensive line, it's right there in that box. And they're going to be facing some athletes that are far superior to them, right? Nazir Stackhouse, say what you want about him. He's an NFL football player, right? I don't know why you would say anything bad about him. Say what you want. Nazir Stackhouse is a top 65, top 70 evaluation right now in the NFL. No, he's not Jordan Davis. No, he's not Jalen Carter, but he's certainly damn good, all right? And he's a little bit more of definitely more of an NFL presence than what they have on that interior. Same thing with Zion Log. I would extend that process to Kristen Miller the way he's playing right now. Warren Brinson, we'll see what's happening with the calf strain. But here's where it's really going to be a problem for Tennessee, as it is for every single one of these offensive line units that lacks athleticism on the interior. It's the linebackers when they match you up and get you two-way goes with these really, really great athletes in space, particularly C.J. Allen, Smile Mondon, and Jalen Walker. I look for those individuals to really take advantage of the lack of lateral mobility of these interior offensive linemen. It's something that Glenn Schumann and this defense has done a tremendous job of over the last several years. I would extend it all the way back basically to about when Nakobe Dean starting for this defense and playing a lot. His ability to mismatch against interior offensive linemen and get home, all right, has really changed the way this defense attacks pass rushers on pass rushing downs. Again, I don't think their interior guys are solid from B-gap to B-gap. I think you take advantage of that. In my opinion, it's the most lopsided matchup in this football game. I don't think Joe Milton only throws an interception Saturday. I think he throws a pick 6 against this unit. The way he has continued to stare balls down, stare routes down in this half-field read concept, it's going to draw way too many eyes and way too many bodies to the ball, right? To where the catch point actually is. Georgia's way too fast, way too instinctually at the defensive back position. I think it's going to ultimately be a problem. I also think it's going to be a Dejon Edwards football game. I went back and forth on who I was picking in the hot hand room at the running back position for Georgia this week, and I came down to this. This is a football game about levels on the offense and defensive line, and that's going to favor Dejon Edwards. What the hell do I mean about that, or what do I mean by that? Let's take it to the board for a second. I didn't prep you for this, and for that I'm sorry, but we got it right here anyways. All right, I'm telling you, this defensive line, now they play out of a 4-2 base, so let's just draw them with a nose, a 3-tech, an end, all right, a Mike, and a Will. All right, now, I told you, they play on different levels. What the hell does that mean? I've also told you they're allowed to get upfield. They're allowed to play aggressive. So if this guy's going to dart upfield, this guy kind of gets stonewalled. This guy darts upfield, and this guy kind of gets stonewalled. Well, guess what, guys? Now we got defensive linemen rushing on different levels, okay? On the run game scheme, on the run fit, they're on different levels of this defense. So if I'm a running back, right, if I'm a running back whose job, or I should say whose talent is really making guys miss and finding the right holes, well, let's say I'm pressing this gap. I got a good jump cut to get past him, and now I'm in that crease that has been created by the different levels of this defense that they're playing. You play Georgia, you play Alabama, you play most of these 4-2-5, two-gapping defenses, all right? They build walls. They make you run around them, right? We don't allow people to run north and south for these defenses. This defense, Clemson's defense, some of these more aggressive defenses that are going to allow Ohio State, allow guys to get upfield. They rush on different levels. It requires a running back that's going to ultimately find that level to hit. Dejon Edwards, uniquely gifted at exactly that. I think it's a big game for number 30 this week. Let's keep going. I also think it's a death march football game. I talked about this yesterday. I don't think this is going to be a 40-pointer from Georgia unless it just gets out of hand. The last 2 years when Tennessee's been a formidable opponent, this game's only been about a 14, 17-point game because of what I'm about to tell you. The moment they see consecutive 3-and-outs, Georgia will squat on the football. Georgia will go back to old school Georgia football. Here's 8 minutes, 12 plays, 75 yards. Come on, we finna knock your teeth in right now. That is the way that they win these football games against these types of football teams. I'm telling you right now, every single year against these types of teams, the message from University of Georgia football coaches is very, very simple. We are tougher than them. We are going to put them in a box, and we're going to punch their lights out for 4 quarters. That'll be the same game plan this year, and I think they execute it for 2 straight years. Welcome in, boys. How we doing today?
Doing good. Good, man. What about you?
What'd y'all think? What'd y'all think about the little rundown right there of just the overall matchup in this football game? And I know you guys aren't necessarily the X's and O's guys, but you see football relatively well. That's why you're sitting in your seats. What do you think about this matchup?
I wouldn't say caught me off guard, but you surprised me a little bit when you said a pick 6. You already called out and predicted a pick 6. I like that. And then I also like hearing that it's a Dejon Edwards game, not just because of how he's played this season, but just knowing that that's kind of been Georgia's strength for the most part, outside of what Kendall Milton was able to do last week, but knowing that Georgia can rely on what they've done well for the most part this year.
No, you're absolutely right in that this defense is going to get torched if they come out and run cover 3 zone. They need to stay in man. The D-line, the fact that they get upfield a lot is kind of worrisome for Tennessee's D-line, that is. The one thing I'm interested in is how much does this crowd play into the game? Georgia's played in one away environment the entire season. Carson Beck's played in one his whole career.
Yeah.
So, and this is the best Tennessee team that Georgia's faced in Neyland since 2005, I think. Which is insane, but true.
No, I mean, I wouldn't even fact check you on that because I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't. I mean, the Butch Jones years were bad.
The 2020 team wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but that was in Athens.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. That was.
I'm thinking of 2021.
George Pickens water squirt game.
Yeah, that was.
I was thinking of 2021.
2021 team. No, they weren't bad, but they were unranked. This team's number 18. Last time they played, I think, ranked Tennessee team was 2005. So it's going to be interesting to see how much this crowd plays into the game and how Georgia reacts. Because I mean, they have started behind in a lot of their SEC matchups, so it's going to be interesting.
I also think that a 6 spot bump after beating UConn kind of helps play into them being ranked right now.
For sure.
I mean, I think they're a top 25 football team in college football just because of the way they run the ball and play defense. Though.
For sure.
I mean, Joel Klatt might tell you different, but I think they're a top 25 football team. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. We're going to continue to give you our final thoughts on this football game. We're going to play one of our favorite games around here, minimum and maximum. We're going to give you the MVP for the week. We're going to talk about the history that is on the line this weekend. We're going to give them three bold predictions today, and we're going to talk about how Carson Beck could potentially find his way into the Heisman mix, what he's got to do to get into that Heisman mix officially. I know he's on the ballot. I know he's in the mix. I'm talking about solidified, bona fide, hey, Carson Beck deserves potentially to win the Heisman. What does he got to do to get into that mix? And, of course, we're going to give you our final score predictions on tonight's show as well. But first, I want to give a quick shout-out to our friends at Prize Picks, okay? If you run over to Prize Picks today and get in that lock of the century we gave you last night or 2 nights ago, can't even remember when it was. It was so daggum good. We took Jalen Wright, 53.5 over, Dejan Edwards, 75.5 over, Ladd McConkey, 66.5 over, Brock Bowers, 55.5 over, and the killer, Joe Milton, 22.5 rushing yards under. Those 5 right now will pay 25x over on Prize Picks, and you can get a 100% deposit match right now using promo code Brooks, okay? What does that mean? You put up to $100, they will give you $100 instantly matched right there in your account. You will have $200, half of them matched directly from Prize Picks with the promo code Brooks. I also want to give a quick shout out to our friends at the Athletic Collection, all these dope and fine posters you see hanging around the studio here today and all the time. You can check out over at the Athletic Collection. Those are NIL plays, okay, for these Georgia athletes. So if you purchase some of those, a portion of the revenues will go directly to the pockets of those athletes. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and reviewing. Okay, we got a banger in store for you guys today. I'm super excited, man. We're like 17.2 thousand subscribers. 12 days ago, I believe it was, we crossed over 16. So 1,200 subscribers in a matter of less than 2 weeks. I mean, I'm right there with it. All right. Now, I know that the people that listen to this show, the people that have found this show, y'all love it. All right, y'all absolutely do. I need y'all to encourage, almost torture, and not necessarily torture. I need y'all to really, really be adamant with your friends and family about joining us, okay, and finding out that good news that we got over here with regards to that football talk. Any final thoughts about this football game just to wrap up the initial opening, or should we get right on to minimum and maximum?
Yeah, my final thought is kind of just a question of how much is this crowd going to play into the game. I think that's kind of been – no, Tennessee's not as good as we thought they were going to be this year, and it's going to be an underwhelming crowd compared to what had the potential to be. But I still think it could cause major problems for Georgia. And I think that the closer you get to the game, the more worried I am about it.
I think the only thing that would bother me about that is momentum swings, right? Mm-hmm. And Tennessee tends to be a quick strike offense. So, like, if they come out and they hit 2 explosives, maybe on top of Dalen Everett, and they score 2 quick times, and now all of a sudden it's 14-0, 14-7, then at that point the crowd is a factor for all 4 quarters. Like, they're going to be in it. That being said, I don't know if they're lying. I don't know if it's just because they've been able to conquer every road game that they've had over the last 27 games. But, like, when you talk to Georgia football players and you ask them about crowd noise, they tell you nothing's louder than the indoor. Nothing's louder than the indoor. Nothing makes us, not be able to hear or think or process information more than what they put on the speakers in the indoor. Now, does that account for actual momentum swings of a football game, the emotions that are tied into it? Hell no. But in terms of making sure the process is clean, making sure that we don't have false starts, making sure that we don't, have issues getting play calls in, like, I don't see that from Georgia football teams on road games. But then again, like, we haven't even seen Georgia play in an environment that's a la Samford in the last couple of years because they're the number 1 team everywhere they go, and they're on top of dudes so fast, or on top of teams so fast that the crowd gets taken out of it.
The other thing that kind of worries me is that they've trailed in all but one of their SEC matchups this year.
Yep.
They trailed against Ole Miss last week. I think the only game they haven't trailed is Kentucky. So, again, you get behind on a Tennessee team with a riled-up crowd, it could become an issue for you.
I don't know. For some reason, I don't worry about Neyland Stadium this year.
Ooh, man.
And maybe I'll get clipped and I'll be put on social media, but
it's been a minute since we got clipped. You know what? Go ahead. Mess around and do it. I dare you.
Just because I think, one of the major factors that I think about when coming into a crowd noise and offensive line play and offense in general is kind of like ball snapping and everything like that. You got one of the best centers in the country, and they've handled the road noise well anywhere they've been to. I don't know. It just – for some reason, and I know Neyland Stadium is great. The crowd noise is great. They have good fans up until the second half when they're getting blown out most of the time. But just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from a snap standpoint, from a pre-snap standpoint, I don't think it worries me as much. But you ask any Georgia fan, what's the 2 worst games you played this season? I think you could say it's Auburn and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Common denominator, those are both on the road.
That is a fair point. And this Tennessee football team has nutted up at home. I mean, if there's anything that they've done well this year, it's play at home. They played really well, particularly the defense. The defense has played extremely good at home. The offense has been up and down all year, but I think we knew that. We knew that coming into the season. At least we did. I don't know if Tennessee fans did, but we'll get final predictions at the end of the show. I want to get into this one because I got 5 of these jokers, boys. Minimum and maximums. Who wants to start?
I got 3.
I always start this with telling the audience how this works. All right, here's how this works. All right, maximum amount of times we hear Rocky Top played on Saturday.
Enough to make my ears bleed.
I have a Google had a number, by the way, so I have a number, an average of the amount of times they play Rocky Top inside Neyland over a 4-quarter game span. Can you guess it?
I'm gonna say it's 32.
32?
What do you got?
Holy I wasn't going to go anywhere near that. I was going to say like 8.
No, my God, it's way higher than
It's
that.
40 to 50.
A game?
Yeah.
40 to 50 times a game they play Rocky Top.
Are they just playing
At
after
Neyland.
every first down or something like that?
The Google machine says it depends on how streaky the team is being. If they're hot, it could be way over 50.
Dude, how do their own fans withstand that? That's horrible.
Woo! Rocky Top.
That's horrible.
Tennessee. It's going to be nuts.
It's
Is it an open? I've never been. Is it an open press box?
I don't know.
If it's not, I might stand in the daggum corridor all
Dude, that's
day. I
horrible.
might stand out in the
Are you
ground
gonna be in the
section.
box or on the field?
I'm in the box. They didn't give me a photo credential this week, so we'll be sitting next to each other.
Nice.
The only thing worse that Tennessee's ever done than playing Rocky Top 50 times a game is when they did third down for what? Every single third down, like 8 years ago, and it felt like there was a third down every other play. It was horrible.
A lot of Rocky Top.
Yeah.
It's going to be nuts. Yeah, Google says 40 to 50 times on Saturday. I'm not going to count it.
Oh
but
no.
I haven't been to an away stadium that has something annoying like this yet. I haven't been to South Carolina and heard the Gamecock.
The trumpeteer thing at Auburn was pretty annoying.
I'll tell you
I
what.
didn't even notice that one.
Really?
I was on the field the whole time, didn't even notice.
I'll tell you
Now, what I do love about Auburn is the little crowd, like the little student section, like cheerleader. He's like, he leads the cheers, literally, with a microphone. It's always a dude. He's 9 times out of 10, a little bit overweight, a little rotund. Who am I to speak? I know. But, man, was he about it. And they're always about it, you know.
I'll tell you one thing that does annoy me is the Mercedes-Benz horn. And I got to thinking about this because I was listening to Tate and Zion, and they were talking about how it's the worst thing ever.
It's awful.
It is horrible. I don't care if it's your team that scores or the other team that scores. Nobody appreciates that horn being blown.
So, fun fact, one of the first sporting events I ever watched inside of Mercedes-Benz as a patron was an Atlanta United game because, you know, my wife played soccer in college. So, I went and watched the Foot Fairies dance around for 90 minutes. And, yeah, it was my first interaction to that. And the horns in the – I don't even know how to explain. It's in the top left corner of the stadium. It's not at each corner, so it's just in one corner.
Yep.
And yeah, we had seats up there, and not fun. Not fun. Don't love that horn.
That's where my seat was for the Chick-fil-A game last year.
Maximum amount of explosives Georgia can allow on Saturday.
Okay, I had one of these. So I think we have to define what an explosive is.
20 yards or more.
Okay.
Okay.
4.
Depends on if they ended in a score or not. That's the big thing in my opinion. I think they can allow 4 is a pretty good number. I was going to say 3.
I don't even think it matters if they ended in an explosive. Watch the Ole Miss game last week. Or excuse me, a touchdown. Watch the Ole Miss game last week. If they had an explosive, they pretty much had an opportunity to have a scoring drive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the method of Georgia defense. The method of Georgia defense is, all right, let's see if you're good enough. 12 plays. Let's see if you can beat us for 5 yards a clip for 12 plays. If you can, we'll let you score. But if you can't, no shot. And the easiest way to cut that 12-play scoring drive down to 8 is to have an explosive play.
Yeah.
This number is way higher for me than you guys because I believe in the offense as highly as you possibly can. I put 6 down on this. I think they can allow 120-plus yards on 6-plus plays and still find a way to win this football game, even though that's a lot. Like that's a lot. But you know, offensively, you're going to have a couple of these as well.
Yeah, I think 6 is definitely like pushing it. 4 is where I would say you want to be. It's a comfortable thing, but
again, like I am dumb high on this offense. Like I think this offense is up there with anybody in the sport right now. I think they can do just about anything that they want to. So that's why I believe that way. If you told me that Tennessee scores 35 points Saturday, I'm like, all right, well, it sounds like Georgia won 42-35. You know, that's kind of my vibe around the way that this offense is playing. You got any?
Yeah, I got one. Max amount of sacks Georgia can allow on Saturday.
I feel like it's been the same number. I'll go 3.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 4. I think 4 is gonna be.
It's just that, like, this offense hasn't played in 3rd and 9+ since Auburn.
Yeah.
You know, they've been consistently in manageable situations because they've avoided sacks over the last several games. 3rd down sacks or punts anyways. I'm not worried about that. It's 1st and 2nd down sacks that kill drives.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in 3rd and 9 and you're holding the football, it's okay. You probably saved a risky throw. But if it's 1st and 2nd down and we're taking sacks, we just killed a drive that wasn't on the verge of dying.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's situational for sure, but I do think 4 is the number you want to be comfortable with.
Maximum number of orange checkerboard overalls you can withstand on Saturday.
There's gonna be at least 60 people in there with them.
A 60?
At least.
Out of
I
103,000?
feel like they all wear them.
At
Yeah, I
least.
feel like you're going to get a couple thousand of checkered overalls.
Don't matter what kind of body type you are.
I'm excited. I say we get up.
I'm excited. Yeah.
I say we get up Saturday morning and we just find out what Neyland's about. We find out what Knoxville's about. Maybe we take a dip in the river. I'll bring my skivvies. What you say?
You want me to bring a swimsuit?
Yeah. That's what I said, the skivvies.
All right.
Is it the skivvies or the skivvies?
I've never heard of either one of those.
It basically means your underwear for old folks.
Oh.
I think it's your skivvies.
Your britches.
I have no clue. I've never heard this before.
It was a saying that my dad used to always use. But anyways, yeah, I say we get up and we have a good time around Tennessee Saturday morning. We see what that action's about because they claim they got one of these crazy ass environments. We finna find out.
We'll see.
We will see. I got another one. Minimum amount of passing yards from UGA
To win?
to win this football game.
250. And that's if you're running the ball for 200.
I like that.
Yeah. You got to get to like 350 yards of total offense, I feel like. 300, 350. Just to like get by
Bare
and win.
minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bare minimum of like.
Scrape out an ugly
Yeah,
one.
exactly. So, yeah. Yeah, I'd say like maybe like 220. I could see Georgia winning with like Carson Beck throwing
I think the
220
line's
yards.
like 245. If you throw for under 245 yards, you're probably in a really, really close football game.
Yeah.
Particularly because of how often they're dropping back this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's 35 times a game. And if you're going to drop back 35 times a game and only throw it for 245 yards, you've probably been contained relatively well. We have our second super sub of the night, but it's our first big one. Shouts out to Unc, Jamie Goodman dropping a 50 dub in here. And he says, you know what? This one ain't even for super subs. This one's on dinner for you guys, the two jokers in the corner.
Thanks,
so,
Unc.
how about you two?
Man, he's provided some
man.
elite hospitality for me over the last week.
He has. He has.
What else happened?
I was at his tailgate on Saturday, and
You were at Uncle's tailgate.
I was.
That's a good tailgate.
It was. I've been wanting to go the whole season, and so I was like, last
The
home
little,
game.
the
I'm
little
gonna go
mini
play.
weenies in a blanket. Them
I didn't
things
see
hit.
any of those. I got
that's
some
'cause-
Chick-fil-A
that's 'cause I ate 'em all.
nuggets.
That's because I ate them all before you got there.
Nice.
I was early round. I was there during college game day. Ravaged the tailgate. Said what's up to Unc. Gave a hug to IE. Dipped out.
I was early.
You know, classic
afternoon.
dine and dash technique over there for me. But nah, he does it right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he does it right every single year. First tailgate I ever did with him was 2019 Notre Dame, and I'll tell you a story off air on how that night ended for Unc. Well, it was good for Unc. It was not good for the other person. But we'll tell you about that one someday. So yeah, shouts out to Unc right there. That is the definition of a good man. Shouts out to Jamie Goodman in the chat right there. Maximum amount of turnovers Georgia can have on Saturday. We say this every week. 1, 2, 3, 3.
3?
Yeah. I said can have, by the way, not in the margin. The margin, in my opinion, can't be more than 2.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
But you 3 turnovers. They've been able to overcome that once this year. It was against UAB.
I think if you have 3, though, one of them has to be like you threw a deep pass into your own territory, and they get it on like the 10-yard line.
Essentially a punt.
3 and
Exactly.
only 2 of them can lead to points.
Yeah, you can't give them 3 short fields.
And history says when Georgia turns the ball over, it's always points, it seems like.
Yep.
Yeah. I got one.
So maybe we knock that down to 2.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like 2.
If you get like Jay will say, if you have a arm punt and nothing comes of it.
Yeah, like you're on the
It is
50,
an
they
arm
pick it
punt.
off on the 10, like, okay, we'll live with that. That's fine. But you can't have like 3 turnovers in your own territory.
You got one?
Yeah. What's the max amount of points Georgia can get behind in this game and still win?
I think they could do 14.
Yeah, I was going to say
I was going to say
scores.
2 scores. I was going to say 14.
2 scores first half. No, 2 scores second half, 3 scores first half. I think they come back for 21 points in the first half.
Wow.
Really?
That'd be
Yeah,
something.
I think they can.
That would be
Again,
something.
I really do. I really do believe in this offense. Especially now that they're as healthy as they are. I don't know how you cover them. I really don't. Everyone knows about Brock. Everyone knows about Ladd. But, like, Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett had 700 yards in the SEC last year for a reason. Like, they're really, really good weapons, and they're your third and fourth options right now. Like, that's absurd. So, yeah, I think they have an ability to really, really put it up. That's, again, it's 11 games in. They were scoring almost 41 points a game, putting up almost 500 yards of total offense.
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
think that's a crazy statement to be making.
No, it's not.
Maximum amount of trash thrown on the field Saturday.
That's a tough one because it's either going to be nothing or it's going to be a shit ton.
Yeah.
It all depends.
No in-betweens.
No.
Yeah. No mustard
And
bottles, no golf balls. By the way, who in the hell sneaks a golf ball into a football stadium?
Definitely just came in
Accidentally had that in your pocket.
for sure.
Yeah,
like
for
went
sure.
golfing the day before or something like that. And was like, oh, forgot I had this in my pocket.
I mean, really,
What's
who
up,
throws
Lincoln?
a shoe? No, but I don't think there's any trash thrown on this field. I think it's kind of handled.
Unless it's a one-score game and there's a call that is questionable. But I think that's such a circumstantial thing. There's so many things going against those odds. But if that happens, look out. But
We got any more?
no, that's all I got.
That's all we got. All right, let's move on to our MVP of the week. I'll go last here, even though I think mine might get stolen. But I have an honorable mention and I have an MVP for the week. Most valuable player of this matchup for Georgia. If Georgia's going to go in, handle business, it's because of what football player, Jonathan?
I said Dalen Everett.
I did too.
I did too.
Wow.
Okay.
I
then
thought I was
on the
being-
flip side, this is the other guy I typed in first, but then I scratched it and went Dalen Everett. I said Nazir Stackhouse.
Okay.
Just be a force up the middle because
Closest to the ball.
exactly. And I think he has potential to be a good game, just like you mentioned, Cooper Mays and those interior offensive linemen for Tennessee. They aren't the best athletes, so I think Nazir Stackhouse could have a great game. And if he can absolutely shut down the middle gap up front, then Tennessee isn't going to have hardly any success on offense.
If it's not Dalen Everett, I would go Ladd McConkey just because you need someone who's going to be able to get behind this defense, and he's had the ability to do so more than any other Georgia wide receiver. So
You know, it's interesting. Ladd, obviously well known as a family member or grew up in a family that really liked Tennessee football.
Yep.
The last time they went to this matchup, Ladd was very much so a special teams player, was kind of a spot starter, was kind of battling Jermaine Burton for playing time, didn't get a bunch of run. Tate Ratledge, a well-known Tennessee, family growing up there in Rome, Georgia. If you will remember, the last time they were in Tennessee, he was out for the year because of his foot injury against Clemson. So this will be his first opportunity to play in Neyland and start in Neyland. So I think those two guys have a huge game. I had Dalen Everett down here as well. They're going to see if he can run and cover multiple times. And not just run and cover. I'm talking about run and cover for like 65, 70 yards. They're going to play down, say, "Hud, chuck it up," like we talked about last night. So he was on the list. The other guy on the list, and this is because I have seen Georgia over the last 2 years really modify their game plan against football teams who do one thing and do it one thing really, really well. And it's Fran Brown doing these things. Fran Brown made the decision to put Kamari Lassiter in the slot because Luther Burden was uniquely talented in the slot. Fran Brown made the decision in 2022 to flip-flop field and boundary, Keely Ringo and Kamari Lassiter, because Dante Thornton lived in the boundary for Oregon. They love to run him on verticals. It's what I'm trying to get to is to tell you that over the last 2 years, if you've faced an opponent that does one thing consistently and consistently good, Fran Brown has magically concocted a way to say, hey, this is how we should defend this week. So if there is an MVP performance in the defensive back room from a schematical standpoint, it's going to come from Fran Brown in this football game. And you know what, man? Like, we've hyped him up as a tremendous defensive back hire. Came from Rutgers, obviously recruited at Rutgers really, really well. Was kind of a decision to bring him onto the staff in hopes that he would really, really help Georgia recruit the Northeast at a much higher rate. He's been able to do that. They've landed a couple Northeastern guys. But what I don't think I imagined was Fran Brown coming into the defensive back room or the defensive meeting room that has Kirby Smart, arguably the best defensive back coach in America still to this day. Will Muschamp, a guy who has very, very well-versed backgrounds and is helping out in the safety room still to this day. Glenn Schumann, a guy who started his career as a DB's GA at Alabama. Like all of these magical minds, defensive minds in the defensive back room. And Fran Brown to walk out there first game of his career and go, hey, what if we do this, guys? What if we do this? Like, that's nuts to me. That it speaks to a lot of the confidence that he has in himself as a football coach, but the kind of community and the kind of environment and culture that they have around that meeting room where it's like, hey, no bad ideas here. Let's hear everything, and we're willing to take everybody's kind of mindset here about how we should play defense. So I'm not saying that they're going to do anything different, but if they will or if they do, it's probably because Fran Brown, kind of put it in the ear of somebody, during the week.
Yeah, I think, everybody just kind of assumes that Kirby Smart, and he is the mastermind behind everything, but they think of like, oh, it's just Kirby Smart's defense because that's what he's built his name off of, and that's what he did at Alabama. But I think it is just like a unit collection of thoughts and ideas that pour into this defense and why they become so great and so dominant and why like it's so easy to tab them as the best defense in the country for the last 3 years because every single aspect of that defense is different than any other defense in college football.
And it's a collective effort, except in my opinion, the in-game adjustments.
Yeah.
The in-game adjustments go directly on the shoulders of Glenn Schumann. Okay, if you watch them closely on the sideline, and they're on a road game this weekend, so I don't know how much of access you guys are going to have to it. But when y'all watch them play in Sanford Stadium next year or whenever you get a chance to, watch the sideline during the breaks. Now, I know the CEO, the head coach, he got to go out there and watch offense, and he's got to watch special teams. He's got to make decisions. He's got to be watching the game. I understand that. But there is one guy over there talking to pretty much all the linebackers and all the defensive backs, and they're the ones making the corrective adjustments, and it's Glenn Schumann with the squeegee board, and everybody else is quiet. Okay, and he's really quiet. Like, he's really, really calm no matter what. Now, I've never seen the guy raise his voice. And that's rare for a defensive coordinator. Almost all those guys are psychos. They're ready to run their head through a wall 24/7. It's crazy.
Yeah, Schumann's definitely a very even-keel guy. It's interesting to watch because you don't see a lot of those on defense.
No, you do not.
You see him on offense a good bit, but not defense.
Have any other outside, maybe some honorable mentions for MVP in this football game? He said Ladd.
Mekhi Muse.
Mekhi Muse, special teams.
I think if Mekhi Muse can flip the field a couple times and just catch all the punts, it's going to be huge.
Hey, we made a joke. We always make jokes about special teams on this channel. At least I do.
Yeah, I saw your tweet today.
You saw that. Put a tweet out today. It was a photo. I was looking through the school photos of the last time Georgia went to Knoxville to kind of get some promo images for some of our articles. And I run across these two photos. One photo is Ladd McConkey making a tackle, and I'm like, okay, special teams. And then I see Brock Bowers making a tackle, and I'm like, what in the shit? Interception, right? Nope. Sure as shit. There's Quay Walker standing right there, and there's Nakobe Dean standing behind him. And I'm like, oh, they have 3 should-be first-round draft picks, okay? Because I think if Nakobe doesn't tear his pec, I think he's probably a first-round draft pick in that NFL draft. 3 should-be first-round draft picks playing special teams. And my comment was, you ain't got to be special on special teams. You just got to have special players playing special teams. And that's what they have at Georgia.
So you would say that it matters, right?
I'm going to say, yeah, I guess it matters. It matters. Even though I think what's most important about that, or what's most impressive about that, is the willingness to get the buy-in from your elite football players.
For sure.
Obviously. Like, that's the most impressive thing, other than the fact that Brock Bowers, at that point in his career, he's like 10 games in. They always play.
He's a dude.
Like, we knew he was a dude, and he was out there covering punts. It's like – and like this year, the first practice observations, you know who ran out with the first punt team? Brock Bowers. He's on the ones unit for punt team. They just don't play him there all the time.
Knowing him, he probably loves it.
Yeah, knowing him, he's probably pissed off when he's not allowed to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's nuts. The guy is very, very much so different. There's a little bit of history on the line Saturday, boys.
Yep.
A little bit of history both ways.
Yep.
Okay, maybe not for them. They're not on a record pace, but they do have an important
streaks are on the line for sure.
Yeah, it's streaking. They do have a 14-game home winning streak, but it's Georgia's streak, ladies and gentlemen. That is impressive. They have won 27 regular season games in a row. Saturday will ultimately make 28. It will tie them three ways, twice with Alabama, for the longest active winning streak in college football history.
SEC history.
SEC history,
Yeah.
excuse me. Thank you for the correction. In my opinion, and in everybody's opinion, it's relatively insane that this coaching staff and this football team has managed to get up and play well and play to the standard this many times in a row. And even when they weren't up to it, like even when they weren't up to their typical standard, they have found ways to win in multiple football games. Okay, really, really close ones that come to mind, three of them in this last, 30 months that they've been on this run. Okay, I think immediately to that Ohio State football game, right? It took an elite timeout from Kirby Smart on the special teams. It took that Brock Bowers play to stretch out and extend a drive there. It took the Arian Smith elite touchdown, the quick touchdown, Kenny McIntosh. It took a lot of things to win that football game and respond in the way in which you needed to. You managed to do it. I think about the Malachi Starks play against Missouri where he's running down what should be a touchdown, should be hey, they're about to go up 2 scores against Georgia on the road, all the moment, or at home, all the momentum in the world. I think about that game and finding a way to win that one. I think about Auburn this year where, things are not looking great, and it wasn't exactly a cakewalk, and they find ways to win that football games. But guys, while I was going through the game logs on Stat Reference today, that's really it. In 27 football games, those are the only 3 that have relatively been close. In fact, if you take those 3 football games out of the equation, Georgia has outscored their opponents 995 points to 316. Guys, they've scored 41.4 points per game in the 24 matchups that weren't those 3 close football games. Their opponents have scored 13.1. Guys, over the last 27 football games, if you remove the 3 opponents that managed to do something, they've outscored their opponents by 28.3 points per game. That's insane. Those games include college football playoff games. Those games include national titles. Those games include SEC championship games. That's nuts. This team has beaten the shit out of everybody for 27 weeks in a row, barring 3 opponents who managed to magically play them tight, boys. I know y'all know you're in the golden age. Until I gave you those stats today before the show, did you realize the streak of dominance Georgia was on?
Obviously, you're privy to the streak because it's something that everyone talks about, but I don't think I realized how dominant things were during that streak. To have only really 3 football games where you're like, this could be close. You can throw the national championship in there because up until 50 seconds left, it was a 1-score game.
Correct.
But even then, that's still a 2-score victory in the national title game. So it's a big win there, but it's shocking to see, honestly.
I think one reason might go a little bit forgotten of how dominant they've been is because it's happened so often. And so you kind of just get used to it. And so you're not really aware of like when Georgia goes and beats someone now 41-13, it's like, all right, took care of business. That's what we were supposed to do. And so it's no longer like, holy crap, we beat them 41. Like when Georgia beat Tennessee, what was it, 2000 and whatever, when they beat them 41-0, like that was a massive deal. Nowadays, if you went out there and beat an opponent 41-0, it'd be like, freaking finally, it's about time we had to shut out this season.
Yeah, I think it was 2017 you're talking about.
Yeah.
Bush Jones's final year.
Yeah.
No, it's been an unremarkable stretch of dominance right here. 28.3, 4 scores you're beating opponents by.
Read those
on
numbers
average.
again, the point difference.
All right, so if you take out the 3 games against Ohio State, Missouri, and Auburn, the only 3 opponents that have kind of pushed Georgia to the point where it's like, all right, 4th quarter deficit, you're looking at 995 points Georgia scored to 316 from their opponents.
And the averages were?
41.5 and 13.1.
Okay.
That's insane.
So I went and did some digging in myself of some teams that have great win streaks. A lot of them happened prior to 2000, but one of them that did happen in this over the last 2 decades is Miami when they went on their streak from 2000 to 2003. So they had a 34-game win streak during that time, and this is how their averages went. They averaged 43.5 points per game and 13 points allowed per game. So Georgia is right there with one of the all-time greatest dynasties ever built.
Pretty much the same, not averaging 3 points less per game, 4 points less per game that stretch.
Think about how much longer and bigger this streak is if you don't have the one hiccup in the SEC championship in 2021.
Good God, it dates back all the way to –
You'd be at 40 right now?
I don't even know. My math's not good enough for that.
Well,
It doesn't really matter doing this. It's all hypothetical anyways, and they got trounced in that football game. They got dominated in that one.
Oh, yeah.
So ain't no what ifs on that one.
No, for sure.
They got handled
For sure.
in that football game. But nah, man, that is some I'm glad you gave us the historical context, because that was one of the questions in the chat. Is this the most dominant run in college football history?
It's right there with it.
It's right there with it. It's close. I don't know what Alabama's margins were during all those times.
Alabama's longest streak under Saban's at 26, I think.
Okay.
So they surpassed it 2 weeks or last week.
So there you go. It just tells you how hard it is. You guys knew this. I don't know if the fan base did. Alabama is well known and well regarded as the greatest dynasty in college football. I think that's inarguable. I don't think Miami's stretch lasted long enough with consistent greatness year after year, right? It was a sprinkling of greatness over a long haul of goodness, right? What Alabama has managed to do under Saban is peak for a really, really long time. And they ain't peaked like this. This is peaking like nobody's ever done it in the sport. And you guys knew that by the back-to-back national titles that were won for the first time ever in the college football playoff history. Since 2014, you're the only school to do it. Only school to even get back to the national title game, I believe, right? Or did Alabama do it one year? Didn't they win one,
Alabama
lose one?
did it in 2015, then they went and lost to Deshaun Watson in 2016.
They won one, lost one. So it's been done before, but not like this. Again, 41.4 points per game to 13.1 from your opponents. It's sheer domination from Kirby Smart week in and week out. And I think that's what it boils down to. It boils down to great players, but also obviously boils down to great coaching. Like the ability to get kids up week in and week out is unmatched in college football right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we got a lot.
It's not hard to recruit. I mean, it's not hard to recruit great players.
Yeah.
But it's that much harder to get them to play hard every week.
Correct. Should we give them 3, boys?
Let's do it.
We got a little bit left. We still got Beck and the Heisman. We got to give them 3. Let's be quick on here. I'll go. Actually, 2 nights in a row. Come on, hit me. What you got?
All right, so the first one I have is I think Dalen Everett gets an interception this week.
Ooh.
They're gonna go after him enough to where I think he's gonna get at least one opportunity. Joe Milton's pretty inaccurate, so I'll go Dalen Everett gets an interception.
I'm just gonna say I know we're being optimistic. Not a shot in hell. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Next, I have Joe Milton get sacked 3 times. I think this defense is going to do a good enough job. Joe Milton's going to get in situations where he holds on to the ball. And then Brock Bowers is going to have 75 receiving yards on Saturday.
Cruising the over on prizepicks.com. Hey, Christian Kirby, give him 3. My concern about Dalen Everett actually coming away with the interception is maybe if he's like squatting in zone. But if they're throwing at him, they're going to make sure it's in a one-on-one situation, I would imagine. And I don't need you to intercept the football. I just need to make sure the other guy doesn't catch it.
Yep.
All right, PIs included. Like, tackle the sumbitch if you need to. Just don't let it happen. What do you got for me?
All right.
I'm still good, by the way.
First one I got is Georgia outrushes Tennessee on the ground.
I like that.
I think the duo that Georgia
That's
has
safe,
right
by
now.
the way.
Safe?
I think that's a
You
safe
think so?
Yeah, I think
prediction.
that's a pretty safe
Yeah, I think
take.
it's a pretty safe prediction. Even though they're not average, I think they're averaging like 30 yards less than Tennessee on the ground this year. So maybe it's not that safe.
All right, I'll step it up. I'll
Okay.
go full on.
Bring me some heat.
Bring the temperature
Give
up
me some hot takes.
maximum right now. Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers combined for more receiving yards than Joe Milton's total passing yards.
That's hot.
I
That's smoldering.
I could see it happening, though.
So 210? About 200? You
Let's
got to
see
go
it.
north of 200.
Let's see it.
So that's 100-yard games.
So that's
from
like
each.
saying
Yeah.
one of them goes for like 130, the other one puts on another 70.
Wow.
I like that.
There you go.
I like that a lot.
There's a bold
That's
prediction
bold.
for you. And then my last one, Georgia's offensive line has another perfect day in pass protection.
That's not bad.
That's a bold one, too.
That's bold. He didn't like me pushing back on his non-boldness,
He
did
didn't. He did
Dang,
not.
I thought it was a bold take to say that they would. I mean, Tennessee's. Goodness.
I mean,
gracious.
You know what's a bold
ran,
take?
Georgia's ran the ball really well this year.
Hey, Jay Will, give him 3. Georgia has ran the ball relatively well this year, but not as well as Tennessee.
And they have a
So
good run defense, too.
They do.
So.
Already gave this one earlier in the notes. Georgia has a pick 6 on Saturday. I think that's a really, really bold
be Dalen
prediction,
Everett.
and I think it's going to hit very, very early. It's going to be Dalen Everett. I don't hate it. If it makes me right, I'm fine, but it made me wrong on the not a shot in hell. So I'll take a right and wrong. Number 2, Brock Bowers is going to be running naked, flat naked down the sideline at some point on Saturday. All right? They're going to get in cover 3, and then all of a sudden 19 going to be going right down the sideline. All right? And he's going to be trailing 84. Okay, 84 is going to be running on a post route, and then you're going to see Brock Bowers go out and up right down the sideline. We call it FIB on this channel, a little flood into the boundary. You're going to see it on Saturday. It's going to happen, and people on the broadcast will be like, how in the world do you not cover Brock Bowers? Well, no one's been able to stop FIB against Georgia when they play cover 3. So there you go. It's going to happen tomorrow, Saturday. Brock Bowers naked down the sideline on FIB. Number 3, I think Dejon and Kendall both rush for over 75 yards on Saturday. I think Dejon Edwards over 100. I think Kendall Milton 76 yards on let's say 11 totes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's weird how Kendall Milton has kind of turned into the
change of pace back.
Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it? How Dejon's been kind of the primary back, and then we throw this big hoss in there to just stick his foot in the gas and make the defense go, what the?
Yeah, it's weird because it's usually like the short, quick, fast guy is always the gadget guy that comes in. It's like, oh damn, change of speed, and the big bruiser is always your bell cow. It's the other way around for this year.
That's how it's been at Georgia for years. It's always been Thunder and Lightning. Thunder gets first and second down carries. Lightning gadget back comes in on third down. Think about Zamir White, James Cook.
Sonny and Nick.
Yeah, think about Sonny and Nick. Think about last year.
Switch with Elijah Holyfield.
Yep. So it's always been big, hefty bruiser, then this gadget back. Now they've kind of flipped the script on that one. That boy Brooks, give him 3. Love giving myself 3. I can't tell you how big of a deal it was in high school football to get 3 from Coach Kenny Dallas. Okay, because what that meant he only gave it out after the game. You know, a couple guys. It was like a game ball essentially, and the whole team give you 3. Man, to this day, one of the greatest accomplishments you will have as a football player to get 3 from your football team, in my opinion. So I thought it was necessary that we bring it to the network and make it like a thank you type of moment. Hey, boys, what does Carson Beck need to do to be like fully like up in there with that Heisman discussion?
At the top or just in there? Like all of a sudden now he's top 3.
I'm talking about like, all right, enough of the Jaden Daniels stuff. Like we really need to talk about how Carson Beck is like bona fide in this bitch.
Go into Neyland Stadium and throw for 400-plus yards and 4 touchdowns.
Gotta give him a foe for foe.
Foe.
Would y'all plan this on the way over here?
No, I've not seen.
Could even get a little biggie bag in there. A little 50. Little biggie bag.
I like that. A little foe for foe. 400 yards, 4 tutties.
That's what I think.
I think the 4 tutties are definitely doable.
It's also going to help his case a lot if he has an insane play where maybe he scrambles away and then finds Lab McConkey deep on a ball. He hasn't had a big wow play this year.
You know what? It's a good point you say this because when Stetson went last year, I felt like at some point I even saw the Oregon play.
Yeah.
You know? Yes. I saw the Oregon play where he's like running around like a chicken with his head cut off and makes a throw. So yeah, you're right. He needs some type of play.
Stetson had a couple of those plays. I mean, even in the Tennessee game, the call me that was a huge moment. Carson's just quietly.
Or the Auburn play.
Yep, the Auburn rush.
Carson's just quietly giving you 300 each game, not too much.
Which was my kind of my point last night when I was like, he's just too boring.
Yeah,
like, and I love it. Like I'm fascinated by it. I mean, I think I definitely was the first to this. This guy's a processor. I have the dates on it. I have the timestamps on my tweets. I saw it in garbage time that this guy was going to come out here, click through his reads, make great decisions, throw accurate footballs. We knew it was going to happen. I'm fascinated by it. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy studying it. But I would imagine from an outside perspectives or an outsider's perspective, you probably just think, oh, well, he's just got all the tools in the world.
Yeah.
They're making it really easy for him. No. He's making all of the right reads every single time. That's the only way to complete 74%, 73% of your balls.
It's easy to be that good when you have nothing but 4 and 5 stars around you.
Yeah, the classic case, which never gets applied to Bryce Young. It never gets applied to Ohio State quarterbacks.
Nope.
It never gets applied to J.J. McCarthy. It's always Georgia quarterbacks. Oh, well, they're just game managers with great athletes. You're not watching, Bubba. You're not watching closely because this dude is ripping the football. I'm with you guys. I don't think it's necessarily this week. I think he needs Oregon to lose. I think he needs Washington to lose. I think he needs some of these other Heisman candidates that are having good seasons like he is or great seasons like he is. I think they need them to lose while also not necessarily dominating this week or next week. He's got to have a balling game against Alabama in the SEC championship game. He has got to absolutely torch them to win a Heisman.
One of the reasons why Stetson ended up in New York is because Hendon Hooker got a season cut short. I think if Hendon Hooker finishes out the season, he's probably in there over Stetson.
That's a take.
As much as Georgia fans want to disagree with me, that dude was putting up great numbers, but at the end of the day, he missed the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah. No, I mean,
a point.
Yeah, no, he definitely does have a point. I also have the point of saying that I mean, he deserved to be there last year.
Oh, absolutely.
But he was never going to win that award.
No. Yeah.
He was never going to be hit.
It was just sick as hell seeing him up there in New York.
Even as the Georgia beat reporter that I know for a fact, if I go out and placate to the audience, that I will get a litany of impressions, particularly on a discussion like the Heisman. I think if you go back, I never once was like, yeah, he should win it. I just it is what it was, or it was what it was, right? He wasn't flat, even if as flashy as he was, it wasn't flashy enough. Like, it almost feels like it has to be 4,200 yards, record-breaking, like just absolute flash plays left and right. That's what it feels like nowadays. You know how I know this? Because they're making the argument for Jaden Daniels, because that is the argument.
Yeah.
He's clearly the best player. Look what he's doing. Well, it's like, for years, that hasn't been the only metric. The only metric has not been, are you a great player, even though I think that should be the metric. Are you a great player that's favored by, X amount of points over the 16th through 133rd ranked program? You can't be 7-3 for Tulane and win a Heisman, but you can be 8-3 for LSU and do so.
Yeah,
sure.
In my opinion. All right, final score predictions before we wrap up for tonight. What do you got?
I think it's going to
wrap
be
up the local hour, I should say.
I've been sitting on 31-14. That's kind of what the number that my what?
I got it close to that. 31-14. I like that.
Yeah, 31-14, just because this really hasn't been a game over the history of where Georgia just goes in there and they want to hang up 50 points. It's very much a game where if they're going to get a 2-score lead, they're just kind of do their thing.
Squat on it.
Absolutely. So I think that Georgia's going to get up by 2 scores. Maybe at one point it's like 24-14, and then they just continue to go and do their thing, and they put another touchdown on the board.
I think this is going to be a struggle for a good bit of the game. I think the crowd's going to come in and play a lot. Tennessee's going to start fast. There's going to be a surge like we've all talked about. Mm-hmm. I do think Georgia finds themselves down at some point in this game, but I think ultimately they're just able to lean on Tennessee and come out with a win. I'll go 38-24. I think
so you see points.
Yeah, I think they distance themselves towards the fourth quarter.
All right, I'm with you. I see a very similar football game that Jonathan does. I think this is Georgia 17-14 a half, maybe 17-7 type half. Go out in the second quarter, get the ball back after the second half. As soon as you get it, 9-minute drive, score, put it away 31-18 is what I have this football game shaping out to be.
18, interesting.
How do you get to 18?
I just randomly, I took this from Chris Berman back in the day. I used to watch Berman do his Monday Night Football show, and he would, or Sunday night, whatever, NFL Blitz, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. He'd do his NFL Blitz show, and he was the Raiders 31. 14, 15, 16. He would just slap random-ass numbers on it, and I think what he was doing was just going with his gut. And my graphics utilization tactics tell me 31-18. Don't know how they get to 18, but I think they do.
Got to say, Berman, not your best impression.
Dude, I got to think about this today. Impersonations are the most vulnerable thing to do on, like, live television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really, really hard.
Because he's either going to hit hard or it's going to be like, dude, that freaking sucks.
Like,
yeah,
what the heck? Like,
the only thing I got with the Berman just, like, act like you got just an absolute just frog in your shit.
I feel like the whoop could be pretty easy to do.
Whoop!
Yeah, that's good. There you go.
I mean, yeah, anybody can do that one. But not, got to get some of that. All right, we have a whole nother hour. I'm not going to hold you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. We got MBR, that dead gift horse. He done came back around and gave us some gold, and we're going to talk about it to start the night.
Might have finally died, too.
Might have finally died.
For good.
For good.